Greetings and welcome back once again. This is Amuna Yisrael. Look, this thing is challenging me. Like, this voice recorder needs to get out. Like, it's bugging out. But anyway, I'm going to try this once again. Soulonomics, movie review, Get Out. About a month late, but you already know how it is. You know, we get it in where we fit it in, and I know everybody then went through their sensation phase and they're on to other things. But for those who haven't seen it yet, I want to let you know early this is going to be a spoiler. Like, I'm just going to spoil up the whole movie. So, you know, if you haven't seen it, this is like the analysis, the after movie. This is not like the preview, go see the movie. If you haven't, definitely go see it and put this in the you know, you have to come and revisit or the saved videos and come back and watch it after you have. I warned you, spoil it. I'm going to spoil it. And again, this is like the fourth, fifth time I'm trying to do this. Not sure what's going on with this voice recorder, but we're going to try again. We're going to try again. Whew. Let me breathe. All right. I'm not a horror movie type of person, but I think because I saw some reviews that's like it's not a whole lot of blood and gory and madness, because I don't like to put a lot of that stuff in my consciousness, even if it is to come and share and edify the masses, you know. So when I understood that it wasn't too much of all of that madness, I was like, all right, cool, I'll take it in. And for this reason, I've been able to do so. And here I am to share with you my thought processes on the matter. To start off, I would say, as everybody knows, this is an interracial conversation. This melanated man named Chris, he's in a relationship 5 months with this girl named Rose. What I would like to say about this is that he wasn't necessarily, it doesn't appear that he was forced into the space that he ended up in. He was kind of lured. And one thing about being lured into a space, it's a desire that is within you that someone is then going to manipulate that desire within you to get a certain result. And so I did a video a few months ago talking about the European woman's desire for the melanated man, and how oftentimes, and it was in their own words, but it basically was about the objectification of the man, wanting to know if he's good in bed or if he really can dance or does he smell good. And so we have to remember that there was an intimate space. I like to call it an abusive relationship. It was the height of domestic abuse between the melanated population that was forcibly taken to these areas of the world, and the European, be it French, be it British, be it German, be it you know, Portuguese, Spanish, all of these different European nations who participated in the slave trade in one way or another were physically, spiritually, emotionally, and mentally, and I know a lot of us don't want to talk about this, involved with, they have, like the guy said, they have coagulated, or this infiltration into the mind of the melanated person has taken place. There has always been a poking, there's always been a prodding, there's always been a level of curiosity as to wanting to know and observing the differences. You're talking about people who, you know, like this theory of evolution and trying to see where the so-called black man and women fits into their landscape. And so when you look at Rose and Chris's character, this is something that has been going on and continues to go on throughout society in different measures. Now, what I would say is that as a melanated woman, a lot of conversations all over social media about this European woman not having your best interest in mind. Like, a lot of people, they're probably yelling at the screen like, we told you, kind of like the detective's character. Again, I told you this is a spoiler. The detective's character, in her laughing, you know, saying, yeah, you know, white women would do that to you. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But this thought that he couldn't see, he was so into his personal needs, not really a nationalistic thought process or a family thought process, but his personal needs or wants or desires, that he could not see throughout this whole film that she was not really going to bat for you. He couldn't see that until it was dead smack in his face. And so the difference, a lot of times, going the path of being with a melanated woman who has been through the trauma with you, a lot of men find it difficult, the rehabilitation process, and would opt for going the path of least resistance. I wanted to get that out of the way. He's apprehensive about going to meet her parents, but in that apprehension, he never turned back. It's basically the desire not to go wasn't as strong as the desire to go. And so that's something oftentimes for the men who are going this way to think about. Now, there's something else I wanted to say as it relates to our trauma. We have a collective trauma here in the West. The transatlantic, the forcible migration of the transatlantic slave trade was a space where all of these different melanated African and non-African tribes were forced into a space in which they had to learn to be amongst one another. So there's a whole lot, and not only that, then forced into a space, like everybody likes to say, to Stockholm syndrome. So it's like a very tangled space in between there. And why I think it's always so very important to speak about history, speak about our individual as well as our collective trauma, is because if we don't deal with it, like in this movie, Get Out, if we don't address it, if we disregard it, if we take the passive leaf resistance, if we try to be the ostrich to stick our head in the sand, it will come back to bite us. It's better to look at the truth, the inconvenient truth and the ugly truth on your terms than it is to be blinded by your willful ignorance and only to find out when your life is threatened that there's a level of truth to this. His friend throughout the movie was trying to warn him the whole time that, and he was unwilling to see this. Now I have my thoughts about this. When he finally gets this scene, he's revealing to them a traumatic situation, which is his mother dying in a hit and run. This will give us a little bit understanding, in my estimation, why when he hits the deer, he can't just keep going. He had to stop and see if the deer was alive, why it affected him the way he did. He actually kind of began to cry. Why later on when he hits Georgina, which is the woman standing here, he also has to go back. It's kind of like trying to go back and save your mother or correct what you did wrong the first time. He was a child when his mother died. The conversation is that his father wasn't around, so he was kind of like raised by a single melanated woman. That's the situation and the traumatic situation for a lot of people. And so he has some unresolved issues. When the woman begins to pry at first, he's like, he really doesn't want to go there. But she keeps pressing. Later on in the conversation, he allows her to go there. And in doing so, because she doesn't have his best interests at heart, she begins to manipulate him. And basically in his soul injury, this is what I call it, Soulonomics 101. In his soul injury, she kind of banishes him to that lowest space by manipulating that trauma that you refuse to address. I'm going to take it a little bit to today with our community. We have a lot of traumas that we refuse to address: relationship traumas, self-esteem traumas, abuse traumas, sexual molestation traumas, all of these traumas that we refuse to address. Then you have those who may not have your best interests at heart manipulating that injurious space in order to get whatever it is that they desire. If you think that others are not aware of what it is that we have been through and exploiting then that we're sad of mistake. For instance, the exploitation of the low self-esteem oftentimes, or the negative self-image that melanated women have. This is one of the greatest markets to be manipulated and exploited, and continues to be so, because we are being sold an image that doesn't reflect anything of who we are, and we're being told that if we're not on this standard, then we're not beautiful. So you see the women in the wig shops, you see the women in the weave places, you see women spending thousands of dollars in spaces to perm their hair or straighten their hair or do different things to their face and straighten their nose and use all of these contouring makeups to do what? To address this epigenetic trauma of being called nappy or being called dark or being called ugly and not acceptable. Do you understand? Chris is just an example of how, if you do not deal with your issues, they can be exploited for the gain of those who have been oppressing you this whole time. That's just my Soulonomics thing. I know y'all might be like, Amuna, where in the world did you get that from? But take a look at what's happening. He's coveting something of theirs, which is their woman. And by so coveting her, they're using her as this golden carrot to lure him in to get what they covet. And what they covet is him, minus his brain. I can go on and on. There's something else. Oh, so basically they're doing this whole brain transplant, wanting to experience life in the melanated body. So like the man said, it's this He's at the control and you're a passenger. And it's kind of like a demonic possession to a certain degree. You're being possessed. You're not in control of your faculties because someone wants to know what it feels like to have your muscles, or to have your strength, or to have your virility, or to have your fertility, or to have your skin. We see this in the movement of Botox. I want to know what it feels like. Even though I've told you all this time that your lips are ugly and your skin is black, now I want to lay in the sun and I want to go tan and I want to inject, different parts of my body so that they can swell, so that I can know what it feels like. So we see a whole lot of plastic surgery. We see a whole lot of products. We see a whole industries that lend to what this movie, and this movie kind of just takes it a step further. You know what? Forget all of those cosmetics. Let me just get your body real quick and have that experience. Again, like I said, I could go on, but hopefully this thing is recording, because this is like the third, fourth, fifth time. I don't remember how many times I've tried to record it. Each time it got jacked up. So for that sake, I'm not just going to keep going if it hasn't recorded as yet. And again, I'm going to put the link in the box. Let me know your thoughts if you've seen this movie. What can you take away? And if you watch entertainment, because I'm very leery about, quote, entertainment and what it is that I watch and take into my consciousness. Like, for instance, when the crazy songs are playing, take that stuff off your ears. Like in the movie, Chris's character took the cotton out of the chair and put it in his ears. Because people say that the eyes are the windows to the soul. Well, if the eyes are the windows to the soul, then the ears are the doorway. Your ears are how things go into your mind and into your consciousness. And so when they're playing like crazy wild movies or saying crazy wild stuff, like take that stuff out of your ears, like that crazy whisper sounding stuff. I'm like, I'm really good, like all the way good. I really don't need to hear that. So again, I know I said I was going to go. I hope everybody have a blessed day. Talk to you soon. One.